So, 2 weeks ago, up until about 2 weeks ago, I hadn't even heard of a wood gas stove. And since I just came off of a hike down in the Sierras with a determination to lighten my pack, and one of the things I was thinking about as a possibility of doing that is this idea of a wood gas, homemade wood gas stove. What I have here is similar to what we see a lot on the web. I've got a 1 quart paint can that I bought for principally some of $1.50. It's hot, that's why I'm not touching it. I just had a fire in it. Plus a Progresso soup can with lots of holes drilled in the bottom, lots of holes drilled in the top. I'm not sure that I have enough holes on the bottom of the outside of the can. That's why I have it on the grill. When I use it on flat ground, I put it up on 3 stones. One thing I want to look at today is the whole question of are these things usable with wet wood. I've been seeing some stuff on the web saying that it is not, and I would like to demonstrate in this video that it is. I'm pretty well satisfied myself that I can boil a pot of water with this stove using wet wood, and so I'm just going to go through a little demo of how to go about doing that. Alright, so we need to get some wood. It's I'm in southeast Alaska, in Juneau, Alaska, and we've had a fairly dry summer, all summer, but we've had a week of rain off and on. 2 days ago it was sunny. Yesterday it rained off and on. It's been raining pretty good since last night, so I'd say that the wood is wet on the outside, but it's more or less dry on the inside. So I'm just gathering up a little bit of this wet stuff here, and we will proceed to boil water with it in the wood gas stove. Alright, so here's what I managed to collect. Mostly small stuff, some of it pretty darn small, in a range of sizes. And like I say, it's been a fairly dry summer, and even though it's been raining this week, if you break it open, it'll be more or less dry on the inside. So, you know, if it had been raining solid for weeks, it might not be so successful, but this is what we got in terms of the wood. Wet on the outside, dry on the inside. So let's proceed. First thing I want to do before I actually start building the fire is get my wood ready, and that just basically breaking it up into lengths. Strip off the bark. The bark retains water, so just strip that off and throw it away. But kind of a range of sizes too. Smaller stuff together, then bigger stuff. So again, strip off the bark. That retains water. No real burning value for that. Okay, so I got my wet wood all organized. Now I need something to get her started with. I'm going to use some sawdust that I got here. It's actually like wood shavings. Ellie, go away. So I'm going to just drop a small handful of those into the bottom. And I've got some other wood here that's dry to start with. And I'm going to get some of that ready. Like I say, there's no shame in using sheets to get started. I mean, I suppose if you had to get wet wood lit with a match, I mean, if you had to, you could, I suppose. Sometimes it's just not possible, but the main thing is just to get it lit. So I've got some wood that's been sitting out of the rain here for a few days, so that, get that ready to go. What I've got here is, this is actually wood that I dried on a previous burn. It was wet an hour ago, and I got her dried just a few minutes ago when I had this thing going. But anyway, so I've got some twigs and I've got a couple of pieces of some cut-offs from lumber kind of stuff. That'll help me get it started. So get a match going. So now the goal was just to get a nice little fire going. Put that right there. Some of these little twigs, get them going. Find those wood shavings, they burn. They're almost like paper. Burn really fast. One thing I don't like about paper is paper tends to block airflow, which seems to be, you know, the lifeblood of these wood gas stoves. You need airflow. Haven't been too successful with paper, but wood shavings, just a few sprinkled on the bottom, and then I start dropping these guys in. I'm a little less of a purist when it comes to the operation of these wood gas stoves than I see some people on the web. Right now, it's kind of, we've got some of the wood gas coming out, but it's kind of half fire in a can, half wood gas. And I'm figuring, yeah, whatever works. So, just get this thing going, drop a couple of these blocks in. Okay, so then what I want to do is, I'll let her get it a little bit started, just a little bit more. Sometimes you need to push the blocks around a little bit to make sure that the jets are not being blocked. You can tell some of that wood's wet by the way it's cracking. Okay, now what we want to do is build ourselves a little log cabin on top of the wood gas stove. Start drying out our other wood. And it's basically, it's just like a campfire in any wet situation. You get a fire going and then you set up a way of processing your wood that you're collecting that's wet, drying it out, and then feeding it into the fire. And it's no different with a wood gas stove than with, as it is from just a regular fire. So anyway, get that going. And so I let this stuff just, whoops, that one's still wet, dropped in. So I let these dry off a little bit, and then when they get kind of dry, I got a couple of choices. I can either kick them into the fire, or knock them into the fire, or pull them off to the side for feeding into the fire later on. So some are already starting to light, so I'm going to pull that one off. This one's kind of starting to burn. Pull that one off. This one's starting to burn. We can feed that one in. Feed that one in. Feed that one in. Feed that one in. Kind of died down a little bit because what dropped in is probably still a little wet. That's what I noticed. If you drop wet wood in there right away, the fire tends to die down. Feed a little bit more fuel in there. And I found that I can just work through a whole pile of wood this way. Drying it off, feeding it in. Now when we get her going nice and good, we're going to see about boiling some water. But we'll get her going nice and good first. So. Okay. I'm going to start heating some water here in a second. My stand is this guy. Simple, simple. Just a hanger. Wrapped around the oops. There we go. Simple, simple. Just a hanger bent with 3 points of support for the pot. Okay, pot of water. Doesn't really matter if there's still sticks sticking out. We'll just rest on the sticks. Okay, time check. 11:33. There's no shame in taking the pot off every now and then and adding some wood. And the other thing I found is that you can actually dry out wood even as you're cooking water or boiling water. Just, pull this off for a sec. That last one's a little wet. This one's going to be a little slower than previous boil, but that's all right. My first one was probably about 6-7 minutes. My first boil. I just let the pot sit on the wood too. Okay, so what's your time like? We start at 11:33, it's 11:35. Two minutes since we started. As far as air temperature, must be about 10 degrees Celsius. Yeah, it needs to tip off. It needs to slide off. Yeah, I tried to use a large tuna can for a pot stand. And for one thing, I thought it was just too complicated. I mean, I don't have that many tools at my disposal. And secondly, I thought it put the pot a little too high above the stove. I wanted about 3/4 of an inch. Let's see, how close are we to boiling? Got bubbles, not a full boil yet. It's time check, 11:38. So it's been 5 minutes since I started the water. Let's add some water. Let's add some wood. How are we doing here? No rolling boil yet. How are we doing here? It's getting close. 11:40. Got 7 minutes. I think we were close. I think we kind of lost a little bit there. Hold on a second. 10 to the fire. We're close, but we'll just rebuild the fire. coming to life again. Oh, starting to boil. That's all it took. That's all it took. Time check. 11:42. So that's 9 minutes, even with all that fiddle farting around. Wet wood. 9 minutes to boil with wet wood.